What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Clearance Rack Podcast. My name is David H. and behind the board, as always, is the Cliff Notes P. Welcome to the Cliff Notes Project Studio. And today, ladies and gentlemen, on the rack, we got a man, the myth, the legend, Mr. KT, a.k.a. the Shuru, a.k.a. the broken faucet because the drip don't stop. And he came stunting on me, smelling like money. That ain't Brute Cologne you got on. I sense over there, right?
No, that is not Brute Cologne, my brother. That is something of Arabian descent.
Yeah, I can't even get the name of it. Anyway, my man.
You can off camera.
Oh, off camera.
Do we want to be walking around in the same places and everyone smells like us?
Cliff be smelling like cool water still. So I mean, listen. Did you switch?
I'm married.
Oh, did you switch to Tommy Hilfiger yet?
I left your car.
Okay.
And I said, "What up, cool water?" And then my wife said, "It's 2022.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us right here on the Clearance Rack Podcast.
Listen, the pleasure is all mine. As always, I like to start off by saying another day is another blessing. Embrace it, be grateful, and be thankful that God has allowed me to come here for this opportunity. Gotta always acknowledge Him first and foremost.
All right, so before we get really deep into everything, I want to give a chance to let the people learn a little bit more about you.
Okay.
And first, let's just give a brief history, where you're from and what you do.
For myself, I was born and raised in Cambridge. I grew up in a household of music. You know, everyone in my family had some type of musical talent or skill. Believe it or not, I went into rap, but I actually started singing at 8 years old. Me and my siblings, we were a group. My mother every Saturday morning would have us in the living room saying, "You got to learn this song so you can sing it in church tomorrow."
Damn.
And so
your roots were grounded in singing in the church.
Yeah.
And how did that? So obviously you're painting a picture of where your musical origin started, right?
Yep.
That story. So how did you become KT the rapper?
That is actually pretty funny as well. It was one Thanksgiving. We all used to come together at my grandmother's house. She lived in North Cambridge in a housing complex called Walling Square. Still there today, still in existence. And everyone would come. I come from a very, very large family. Okay. So my mother's side of the family had like 7 siblings, and my father's side of the family had like 7 or 8 siblings. So, you know, Thanksgiving was pretty big. Food. So I had a cousin that was a rapper at the time. Okay. Now we're talking about a hip hop, a hippie to the hippie type days. You know what I'm saying?
Was he looked down upon as the family? Was your family super religious?
My family was religious, but the one thing I always respected and appreciated about my family is that they weren't like that super, you can't do this, you can't do. They weren't super strict. So my family, that was kind of their rule of thumb. It wasn't shoving nothing down your throat. You know, it was like, here's the Bible, here's church, you got to do what you got to do because you got to save your own soul.
So it's Thanksgiving. Your cousin's over. He's hippity hop hop.
Listen,
hoop hoop.
We're at Thanksgiving. My cousin's there, and I still remember some of his rap from Thanksgiving. He said, "Here we are on the Thanksgiving. Be happy that you are amongst the living."
Yo, 5 mics in the source, bro.
Listen, so he said that, and then he looks at me and goes, "Watch yourself, because you don't want to play with this." And everyone was like, all my cousins, my female cousins went out, ooh. So I stood up
on the spot.
I was like 11 years old, and I went right at him. And I just remember he was only 18, but he had like a George Jefferson hairline.
Like Cliff.
And I went, look at
Damn, son.
Damn, Cliff, that's why he keep on the hat, but we ain't
Leave
gonna
the
go
hat.
there. He had a George Jefferson hairline.
I went right for that. And I started rapping about that, and everyone in the room was like, ooh.
Oh, damn.
And then from there, just
on Thanksgiving.
Listen, man, I cooked his hairline on Thanksgiving.
Damn, you still with the bars. Anyway, all right. So that was the beginning of where you first knew you had it. But then let's transition to how you took that passion or that hobby and that love for rapping into becoming a professional rapper that was signed and was among some actual hip hop royalty. So how did you get to that point?
You want to hear something so funny? I just loved music. I love participating in music. And I was never like, yo, I got to be a superstar. I got to get a record deal. I just enjoyed music to the point that even when I was in elementary school, I took the trumpet because I wanted to learn how to play an instrument. I learned how to play the drums. Like, I just loved music. Yeah. So then as time started to progress and, you know, it would be little high school parties and little stuff. I'm grabbing the mic, I'm rapping, and now that love is starting to grow even more. And so people used to always be like, yeah, you should try to get a record deal. But that was never really my motive. Now, fast forward, I'm older, I'm out of high school. Now I'm in the streets, maneuvering around in street activity. And I really didn't want to rap.
Yeah.
I'm like, rap, snap, zap. I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
I'm getting this money and I'm going to keep moving around. So what happened is that a friend heard me and another friend that was a DJ. We got together and was hanging out. We made a tape. He heard it and was like, yo, you should really try to do something with this. And I was like what? He goes, all right, how about this? And we were all hustling at the time, just so that you know. And so he's
hustling
like,
candy at the stores,
whatever you want to call it.
Statute of limitation.
We trying to, we trying to put this out to
gone, bro.
18
Just in
and under.
case. He was
Statue's
hustling
gone over 25 years
sneakers
ago.
Juju
on the
beads.
streets. Yes, exactly.
Listen, the devil's dandruff. I was out there shaking the devil's dandruff.
Okay. Oh, still with the bars.
Listen,
Okay.
so
The bars don't stop.
listen, they don't, man. The bars don't stop.
So he gave you an opportunity.
No, he said, look, if you're not serious enough, I'll put the money up. Let's go to the studio and record a project. And I said, cool. Let's
At that
do it.
point, had you ever put lyrics down in the studio?
Absolutely. Like, I have been in studios messing around, but never had taken it this serious
Yeah.
where you're actually sitting down, putting song ideas together,
Okay.
constructing, music. And so when that opportunity was presented to me, I knew I didn't want to do it by myself.
Yeah.
So I was like, who can I get? And it was a whole slew of MCs that we all used to just come together in like ciphers and just rap just for the fun of it. And I'm like, all right, who out of all of these people could I get? And the person that came to mind was Joe Politics, which is Joey. We called him Joey. Now he's referred as Joe Politics.
Yeah.
He's running around, public adjuster, has the Muse, an art gallery, all that great stuff. So we all came from like musical and art backgrounds. And so I met Joey back when we were in high school. I battled him in a dance battle at one of those one of those parochial school parties. And so he was rapping at the time.
Good thing ain't no YouTubes of that.
Nah, thank goodness.
We don't need to see that popping.
No, we don't need to see that. At the time, Joey was dancing for RSO.
Okay.
He was one of the 9 dancers.
They had dancers at RSO?
Yeah, they had dancers.
For those that don't know, RSO is like kind of a super street.
Well, now I'm going to take their street cred away from them.
Yeah, they had Wait, are you saying that he was a backup dancer?
They had the 9 dancers. There was 3 of them.
How do you dance to RSO's music?
Oh, they have music you could dance to.
Okay, because
yeah,
I've known them for some of their, their street records.
They had some records.
Random question. Did he carry around, how you would carry around like that, what do you call it? Not a cardboard, but like, yeah. Just
are we talking like breakdancing in the 80s?
Breakdancing, yeah. Did he do that?
Nah, this was like this was the 90s.
Nah, this is the 90s.
Oh, never mind.
At this point, this is the 90s.
More like, it was a little bit more choreographed.
Yeah. All right, no cardboard.
So it was choreographed. Like, they have routines to each song. It was crazy. I mean, I went to a Tim Dog show and saw them perform, and I was like, oh, okay. So me and Joey had always known of each other, and he used to come around to the ciphers and be rapping. And so I remember he played me some of his music of him rapping, and I was like, it's all right. But I liked how he was rapping. And I was like, you know what? He doesn't rap like me. So this would be the ideal situation because I knew he was focused. I knew he was dedicated. And I was like, everybody else just sees that here we are, these dudes over here who hustle and got money. We about to go to the studio and it's an opportunity. As to where Joey was like really sitting down, making ideas and bringing plans to the forefront. And it was like, cool. So I brought him to the table. When I brought Joey to the forefront, the guy putting the money up there want him to rap. He's like, nah, just do it by yourself. And I had to convince him. I'm like, yo, look, let's go to the studio, because me and Joey had actually recorded a record. And if you go on YouTube, we just recently sold it to a company in the UK. Mind you, Concrete Click has been being recycled in the UK over and over again.
Damn. So that's how it started. Now let's talk about how long was the grind in that period from when you started rapping to when you linked with Concrete Click to when you got signed personally as a solo artist?
So I started rapping probably in high school. Like towards the end of high school, I probably started to take it a little bit more serious, right? still not so serious because now I'm dabbling in street activity and I'm seeing, you know, oh, I can go buy a car whenever I want. I can get the latest sneakers.
Yeah, buy me some cars.
Listen, man, girls
I know
love
you got
me.
a lot of them.
Imagine going into a club, sitting at a table by yourself, ordering 3 bottles, and 10 minutes later you're surrounded by like 5-6 girls.
That's a cheat code.
Yeah.
Listen, at 20 years old, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Knowing that you have like a $45,000 car outside that you just bought cash.
Damn.
You know, that's how we were moving back then. I don't say that as a badge of honor. As a disclaimer, I will tell anybody who is involved with any illegal activity, this is not the day nor the time to be playing around. They want to lock us under the jail.
Yeah.
So you better watch yourself.
Back then, he was in a 45,000 clip. I think I was on the 28. I just had a bus pass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Some tokens in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Baby, you want to go, you know, catch this 28 to Ruggles real quick?
Listen, the thing is that, and this is all things that lead me to the Bible, is that, you know, the Bible even says that the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say, I hear people misquote that all the time. Money is the root of all evil. No, it isn't. The love of money is. You better listen to that OJ song. For the love of money, you'll kill your own brother. For the love of money, you'll kill your own mother. Like, they're breaking it down in that record.
So you dropping knowledge and bars on us. So talk about the grind was about how long from when you started to when you first got signed?
I would say from when I really started taking it serious was kind of in the mid-90s. That's when we put out the Concrete. Actually, early to mid-90s is when we put out the Legal Terrorism. And it took off. We traveled all over the world, like all over the country, I mean, with it. We went down to How Can I Be Down? It was a big music conference. Went down there. We flew down there on what's called Spirit Air today. The comparable to Spirit Air back then would have been Value Jet.
Yeah, they don't know about Value Jet.
Value Jet had no air pressure inside of the cabinet.
Damn.
So when you go up in the air,
you were standing there on the up on the plane like this,
feeling like your eardrums are gonna pop right out of your ears. So
but the grind don't stop. You had to get down there.
$89 a flight. It was all four of us jumped on a flight. Had a family member down there that lived there. We were able to stay at his house, courtesy of Joey's cousin. Let us stay there. His parents so happened to not even be in town that weekend. We were there. Boom, we're there, maneuvering around everywhere. And what really got us popping while we were down there is that there was a freestyle battle, and we jumped on stage. Same guy who put the money up, which was my man Dre. He put the money up for us to do the project. He jumped up there and said, I got $1,000 that nobody can see my man in the freestyle. I battled some little kid they put up there, demolished them, and we were the talk of that whole thing that was going on down there. Everyone kept saying, did you see those dudes from Boston that went to the Unsigned Talent Showcase and jumped on the stage with $1,000? And it was crazy. So from probably like mid-90s, and then we moved through Concrete Clicks doing their thing, and then around 96 I got jammed up in the street, caught a case. Right when I caught that case, someone had this is when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
Someone had broken into my house, stole everything. Then I got jammed up, caught a case. I was on the phone with DJ Clark Kent. I was like, you know, because he was one of the people that were interested in us as a group. And so I called him and I told him, he said, listen, man, you're going to get in trouble. Come move to New York. You could come stay at my house.
Damn.
And so when I went and stayed at his house, for those who don't know, Clark is the original sneakerhead.
Yeah.
He had sneakers stacked to the ceiling, and then we talking about this is the 90s that he was doing this.
And still to this day.
And still to this day, man. And so by me going there, I think I started going out there in around 95. I started going to Brooklyn. I had keys to the house, everything. Just from that alone, producer Ski Beats, I had met him at a freestyle battle at the BET soundstage where I battled somebody. I battled a rapper from Chicago named Breeze. Anybody who knows Chicago rappers, I battled Rhymefest, demolished him.
Damn.
Yes, that is right, Che. I demolished you.
Okay, I mean,
because he went on a podcast and tried to say that he don't even remember battling me. And the person who did the podcast messaged me and allowed me to jump on to the podcast while it was going on.
Did that refresh his memory?
Listen, real quick, he tried to hit me offline, like, you know, I don't even remember that. You know, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. I'm like, beat it with all that. You know that I blazed you, man. You know that I blazed you, and
so
that
you
was
moving around with. I mean, let's not overlook some of these names. I mean, because Ski Beats, DJ Clark Kent, for those that don't know, aren't just like, you know, some producer who was making beats or some DJ.
They did both did the bulk of the Reasonable Doubt album.
Classic.
So those two probably had the most records on there.
Because we gotta say that for some of
the younger population,
for the younger people that might be watching this.
It was Ski Beats and Clark. I think they both did like 3 records each. Primo did a couple of records. And I know that my man Peter Panic did Regrets. And there was maybe 1 or 2. Irv Gotti did Can't Knock the Hustle.
So needless to say, at this time, you weren't even signed, but you're already moving around with some heavyweights in the industry.
You know what's so crazy? And this is a reality. This is a reality in life. When you are just yourself, being yourself, people want to be around you. And so for me, I think for what with Clark, me and Clark met, we clicked immediately. Clark knew I was out here getting money, and I used to drive to his house all the time, be inside of, you know, my whips or whatever. He tried to buy one of my cars off of me when he first met me, and I was like, whatever. But I always give people their flowers, you know, while they're living, right? Clark always managed to position me in places where I could continue to grow and learn about the industry. One of the first things Clark did was he took me to the Soul Train Awards in LA, and I'd already known the Notorious B.I.G. because I had met him a couple of times, but I was with the Notorious B.I.G. an hour before he got killed. So we were at the party, sitting at the table. We were chopping it up. He was like, yo, I keep hearing that you nice on the mic. When we get back to New York, come to Daddy's house. Daddy's house was Diddy's recording studio in Manhattan. And I just remember that, you know, I went all over. I always say as a joke that hanging with Clark, I went all over the country. I think sometimes twice. You know, so these people that I was meeting were, you know, showing me things. Now, Ski Beats, on the other hand, started teaching me about the music industry. I didn't really know how to construct and write in bars, and Ski took the time out to teach me. Not only that, he also taught me how to produce. So me and Ski worked on Who You With for Jay-Z. We also worked on Streets Is Watching. Those were 2 beats that I was supposed to record on. So I would be at the studio with Ski.
I mean, I'm kind of disappointed for you, but those records is classic, and I'm gonna just go on a limb and say you nice. But Hove might have killed that a little better, you think? Oh, is there a version that I can hear to compare?
Do you got an uncut version of sound out there?
Listen, here's the thing. I didn't even get a chance to rap on them.
Okay, all right. So we'll never know.
You'll never know. Like Jay would come around, and the thing is that Ski had a studio in New Jersey that we used to work in, and Dame used to come by our studio all the time just to talk trash. But I think I say to talk trash, but I love and respect Dame because he came around and did that, and I know that was a motivational type of thing, like a push he was trying to give us. Like he would talk about what we were working on, he would talk about Ski's car, but then you could hear in the middle, in between of all of that, he's giving advice, you know, and dropping gems. And
now
so,
all of this happened again before you even sign a record deal. Do you have a song out?
I don't have a song out. I'm not signed. I'm running around the city with Clark, battling people.
So you got a nice little, like, a pre-career before you even officially got signed to be around some of these heavyweights in the hip hop industry. I mean, the names you're dropping, obviously everybody knows, and if you don't know, you need to check it out. But you literally had this such a front row seat to hip hop and these mentors. And how did that prepare you once the deal came, and how soon after did the deal come?
So all of this is going on, and I would say it was probably like a year to a year and a half. You know, I'm running around. I had known Clark already and was hanging with Clark even before I moved to New York. I used to go to New York just to hang out with Clark and then, you know, drive back here. You know, I remember I had bought like a M3. I was still hustling at that time.
Light Flex.
I had bought an M3, drove to New York
Beamer.
because Clark was in the studio. with some Japanese artists, and I remember I walked in and he was doing a remix for some Japanese artist, and I said, look outside, and he looked outside. I have my car parked outside. Oh, you bought that car? I was like, yeah, that's my car. And he was like introducing me to everyone in the studio. He had a couple of rappers, a couple of his artists. Shout out to my man, not Missy, but his name was Mr. Meaner. He was from Brooklyn. He was from the Hill up in Brownsville with the rest of them. He was in there, and then as he's putting everybody on this remix, he looked at me and was like, get in the booth, Kay, get in the booth and get on this remix. And I'm like, what? He's like, write something real quick and get on this remix. And
what Japanese artist who you never even heard
I never met this artist. I never met this artist. Don't even know who he is to this day. But I know that went over to Japan and was huge because hip hop in Japan is crazy. So still at this time, I'm not signed.
You international around hip hop heavyweights, still not signed.
Still not signed.
You get them royalties from that song?
I have no idea.
He didn't sign nothing, you know.
But Clark,
he was happy to be there, I'm sure.
But Clark ended up getting Andre Harrell sold Uptown Records and then became the CEO of Motown Records.
Okay.
And then Clark was the VP of A&R at Motown. So I used to go up to Motown all the time just to hang out with him. Like, one thing I love about Clark is if you hung around him, you bound to go to a steakhouse or go somewhere. You're gonna go eat and eat good.
Yeah.
Listen, man, he loved to be around his people. He loved to take care of his people, and that's the one thing I always appreciated about Clark. So I went up there, and as I'm there, there's an intern, and he keeps coming up to me saying, what do you do? What do you do? And I was like, I rap. He's like, do you got any of your music? Now, at the time, I had a cassette.
Damn, we're not dating ourselves. For ladies and gentlemen, should we pause here to say what a cassette is, Cliff?
Yes, we should.
Okay, a cassette, ladies and gentlemen, used to be a tape, like a plastic
I did the thing
piece.
so you could put that picture
yes,
there.
with like some tape inside. You used to have to play music on this device in a Walkman or in a boombox. Watch any movies in the 90s, and unlike today, you couldn't fast forward as easily, skip songs. It's a collector's item, and we're not going to date ourselves too much, but let's proceed. This predates CDs that you had your career.
Well, CDs were around at that time.
Yeah, but it wasn't easily accessible to just drop a CD and mix a CD.
It wasn't easy accessible to record on.
Exactly.
But was it the big CDs when CDs
laser
first
disc?
came out?
No, it was CDs.
That was in Canada,
like
Cliff.
this.
That was in
Yeah,
Canada.
my
Y'all didn't get
fault.
CDs
My
up there.
bad, my bad.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
He's from
trying.
Canada. He don't know that much.
It's different
you know
out
what
there.
I'm saying?
So the intern, he's at me. He's like, "What do you do?" I said, "I rap." He's like, "You got any of your music?" Like, yeah. So back then, and I'm probably sure still now, and all of these labels, if you've never been inside of one, I used to walk in and out of them just like walking in and out of McDonald's and Burger King. I had gotten up to that. I had gotten my reputation up to that point because I always made friendships with producers that would call me to come help work on hooks or help an artist they were working with write rhymes. So I was in what's called the music room, and they would have speakers and then different options of playing. Dat, cassette, CD, laser disc, whatever, right? So I give him the tape. He starts playing it. He goes, "Who are you signed to?" I was like, "Nobody." He said, "Can I make a copy of your music?" I'm like, "For what? Like, what are you about to do with it?" He's like, "I'm gonna let my cousin hear it." I was like, "Who's your cousin?" He goes, "Oh, he works here." I said, "All right." So he took a copy, and I just remember writing my information. He's like, "Write your number on here." And I wrote my number on the cassette. And I just remember, like, 2 weeks later, I'm back here in Boston. I'm relaxing at my girlfriend's house at the time. She was living in Upham's Corner, like right across the street from the Strand. And the phone rings. She answered and goes, "Hey, it's Andre Harrell on the phone." I said, "Yeah, right." And so the guy's name at the time, the guy who was the intern, is O'Neal McKnight. If you Google him, he's Russell Simmons' now right-hand man that works on so many different companies. That was Andre Harrell's cousin. And so I grabbed the phone and was like, "Yeah, right, O'Neal." And he goes, "Yeah, it is O'Neal, but I have Andre on the phone." And Andre Harrell was like, "Hey, KT, it's Andre Harrell. How are you?" And I'm like, I'm good. He's like, "Well, I heard your music, and I'm in St. Bart's right now."
Like, he flexing on you.
Listen, did he stun on me ever? He's like, "I'm in St. Bart's right now."
I don't know what that is.
I had no idea what St. Bart's. What's that, The Simpsons?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, he's like, "I'm in St. Bart's right now." He said, "But I'll be back in New York tomorrow. When can you come to New York?" I said, "Tomorrow," right? I remember I went to New York. Boom. I remember I was in such a rush. I left the house, jumped on the bus. The bus was $20, Greyhound.
Yep.
Jumped on the Greyhound, patted my pockets, was like, yo, I left and didn't grab any of my money.
Damn.
So I get to the meeting. The meeting's full of all his employees, long table, only open seat is at the opposite end of the table. He's at the other end.
Wow.
And so he's just like, we're going to play the music. He plays the music. 30 seconds into it, he stops. I'm like, oh boy.
Here it goes.
This is it. And he's looking down and he looks up and he goes, what's your lawyer's information? And I remember Ski telling me, when the way that you'll know that someone's serious about doing a deal is they want to know who your lawyer is, right?
Who you say, Dane M. Showman? That's the only TV lawyer name I could have threw out.
I didn't have a lawyer.
That's what I'm saying. I would have tried Dane M. Showman.
The crazy part, I did do that, but the crazy part is I threw a lawyer's name that I knew of. Remember the artist, the reggae artist Ruffa from Boston?
Yeah, it's vaguely, yep.
He had a lawyer and his name was Craig Brown. And they used to always be together. So when he asked me who my lawyer was, I said, Craig Brown. And then Andre was like, I know Craig Brown.
you're like,
all right,
damn it.
cool. He's like, I'm going to get the paperwork going. So immediately, I had to call Craig Brown and let him know that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the meeting, I just remember saying, hey, they're like, all right, we're going to get the paperwork going. I said, Andre, can I talk to you for a second? And I pulled him to the side. I said, yeah, I rushed here and I don't have any money to get home.
Wow.
He looked at the guy who was the head of the VP of the company and he says, look, he has no money. He said, take him to go get something to eat and give him some money to get home. So the guy goes, I'll meet you downstairs in front of the building. I walk downstairs. He pulls up in a brand new Range Rover. I jump in it with him. He says, here, gives me $200 and says, is that enough to get something to eat and get home?
200.
I was like,
Back then, too.
At this point, drive me to the airport. I'm going to fly
He must have
home.
been in the 4.6, not the 4.0.
He definitely was in the 4.6, and that was my man Jimmy. You call him James Jones. He passed away.
R.I.P.
But he was
again, Andre Harrell.
Yeah, Andre passed away.
Yeah.
I was a part of the celebration of life for Andre. They actually reached out to me, and everyone who worked with Andre, they had give a story about Andre. And my story was when I wanted to get off the label. And I just remember I called him. I told him, look, because he had gotten me a corporate apartment in Manhattan. And what happened is with his label situation, some things had gotten shaky. And I noticed it. And I was like, listen, I got to get out of here. I had ended up getting a new manager. I had fired my manager and hired Chris Lighty as my manager. And Chris Lighty had met like the same time that Big got killed in LA. I met Chris and we always stayed in touch. And I was like, I called him. I was like, Chris, my label situation's not looking too good. I need your help. And Chris came over there and got the label to give me more money.
Wow.
But that didn't help the situation because the label itself couldn't move anywhere because Tommy Mottola had blackballed Andre Harrell in the music industry.
Wow.
And at the time, Tommy Mottola had signed Santana, Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
So if he tells the game you're a no-go, you're a no-go.
Damn.
And
So this was just a perfect storm of bad timing.
It was.
That everything happened. So during this time that you were signed, you officially signed a deal. How long were you on the label? And during that time, did you put out projects?
So I was on the label for about a year and some change. I didn't put out any projects, but I worked on other projects. I worked on like a movie soundtrack. I helped a couple of artists with their production. That was another thing. We had gotten stagnated because of everything that had been going on with the distribution. Nobody knew what was going on. Like some of the money had stopped, and it was like, yo, at that point is when, it gets to my story of when I went to his house and I said, listen, I want to get off the label. This dude told me, come to his house. I met him at his house. He lived downstairs from Jerry Seinfeld. And so I went to his house. He had the paperwork on the table. He told me I had to move out the apartment in a month. He gave me a check, and he was in a bathrobe smoking a joint. And he was like, listen, man, it didn't work out. But the one thing is that whenever I would see him, he would always be so excited.
Wow.
And I know that people have had their bad run-ins with Andre, but I can't say anything I ever asked him to do, he did. And I'm not just saying that because he's deceased at this moment. Anything I ever asked Andre to do, he did it. You know, so it's all based on experience, which is like a lot that's going on now. How Puff and Mace are at each other.
Exactly.
Look, the reality is this: is that Puff, he adopted a culture in the music industry that had been going on forever, instead of being smart enough to change it. Because if you notice, he has none of his original artists. None of them.
None.
And that speaks volumes. That means you did bad business. And I'm not saying this to down Diddy, but reality is reality and fact is fact. You did bad business. And that's why none of these people want to be around you. On top of, you got a handful of artists that have died, you know? Not saying you killed them, but, you know, that's the thing. So Mace has a valid argument with Puff, because Puff's success solely lied on all of these people who no longer want to be around him. But that is not something that he just did on his own. It's an adopted behavior in the music industry.
So you get off the label. At this point, are you still trying to do music? Or I know you mentioned Chris Lighty, RIP to Chris as well. What was the trajectory after you were able to get off the label?
When I got off the label, I remember I went to Chris's office and I told him I'm moving back to Boston. And then I left the office, went to the Village, was just hanging out, because I used to like going to the Village to buy fake IDs, because back then you could jump on the plane if you were under like 21 and it would only be $75 each way. At that time I was like 23, so I was like, I can't pay the $150. I can't pay the $150. I gotta pay the $75.
Imagine trying to go somewhere now for $150.
Not happening.
So that's when they used to have the Trump shuttle and the American, the Trump shuttle, the Delta shuttle, and the U.S. Air shuttle. And so I remember I was there trying to get a fake ID because I was gonna fly back to Boston. I had boxed up all my clothes and everything, brought them to the office so that they could ship them UPS to my house. And I got a call while I was in the Village from Chris's assistant. And she said, oh, Chris is here. He's looking for you. And I remember I went back to the office, and I went to Chris's office. I said, yo, I'm going back to Boston. He's like, to do what? He's like, to sell drugs and get arrested and get locked up? He's like, what you gonna do? And he said, stay here, man. We'll figure it out. Just stay here and we'll figure it out. And he pushed the envelope over to me. And in the envelope was $5,000 cash. He was like, here, put that in your pocket so you got pocket money. He said, I got a choice. You got a choice. You could go stay at the house in Jersey, or you could stay in the house that I own up in the Bronx, in Riverdale. Riverdale is an extremely nice area in the Bronx. And he was like, which one you want to do? So his brother Dave Lighty, who I used to hang with every day, was living in Jersey. So I'm like, I got to be near my homeboy, because he got the car, you know, he got we got to move around. So I ended up staying, and by me staying, I was there to play a part in the decision making for signing 50 Cent. And so the thing was, I stole a 50 Cent CD off of his desk, because I had known about 50 Cent. Jumped in one of the trucks, came to Boston for the weekend, and by the time I got back on Monday, I was like, yo, here's your CD. He goes, I was looking for that CD. And I was like, he's like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, sign him. Now, I'm not saying he signed him because I said so, but Chris was the type of person that he respected the opinions of certain individuals. And if you're one of those individuals and he asks you and you give him that response and it's all the same, it's how he'd be able to make those moves. So Chris started to manage me, told me to hang around Violator. I hung around, toured with 50 Cent on the Get Rich or Die Trying tour.
Full circle.
I was on the Rock the Mic tour for a couple of dates. Chris tried to get me a job at Reebok when they did the 50 Cent shoe deal. He tried to get me. I remember.
You had a pair of G units?
I had boxes of G units. I left the
still got
office.
them on right now.
G unit.
All right, you don't have to do that.
I left the office one time with a box. I used to call Reebok and tell them, send boxes to the office.
I mean, honestly, by all accounts, you had such a hip hop experience. I mean, no matter what, like, people can't take away these memories from you.
No.
Like, honestly, it might not have gone.
And the story's way bigger
That's
than
what
that.
I'm saying. And I think that you have, like, a place in hip hop. You've been around some of the biggest acts. What did that teach you as you transition to your next part of life? Like, what did you learn from this experience? And honestly, too, how long did that last, that purity of your life last, where you was
I would say that
it
started in like 96, like me really getting into the industry, like living and being in New York on a day-to-day basis around everything. Mind you, I went from New York to LA sometimes. After all of that, I came back here, worked with the Sheik from Saudi Arabia, taught him music, ended up living in Florida with him for a little while.
Bro, I don't even got to ask, like, you're a book waiting to happen. First of all, we all these stories. And
Or
I'm sure
a
there's so
film.
many stories.
Listen,
Or
brother,
a
I
light
got the
film.
book idea and I got the title of the book and everything.
Damn.
We should sit down.
Yeah, well,
we
I
should
mean,
all sit down.
I can't write it, but I mean, listen, we can try to help
the-
get the movie together.
We can
for you.
shoot it, though.
Exactly.
Listen, the name of the story is going to be called From Hip Hop to Holiness. How I
Damn.
transitioned my life from hip hop to the understanding of who God is and striving to try to live my life in that manner.
So let's talk about that real quick, because like I said, you came from this storied hip hop career. Again, the music business, I'm sure you experienced the music business. It wasn't like, oh, I got a couple CDs out, mixed CDs. You was in this business for real. And then I remember a point seeing you and knowing you as KT the Rapper. You know, I vaguely knew your story back then. I definitely knew your commercials back in the day from the Manhattans. But then I remember seeing you take this sharp turn into a more like, you know, focusing on God. And obviously at that point, I didn't know you personally. How did that transpire from hip hop to holiness?
All of these experiences were amazing and they were a blessing. But then I sat back one day and was at home hungover from the night before. And I just remember looking at my front door. And as I was looking at the front door of my apartment at the time, I was living over in Revere with like a family friend. He had a 2-bedroom apartment. He was never there. He was like, yo, I'll rent the whole apartment to you. I'm never there. So I took it. I'm sitting in there drunk. Saturday morning, Friday night, was in the clubs, turning up all the way, volume all the way to 10, man. I'm sitting in there looking at the front door, and what came to my mind was, if Jesus Christ walked through that door right now, am I ready? And my heart dropped. And I was like, I ain't ready. But I also didn't know what I needed to know about Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And the only way that I would know that is if I actually picked up the book and started studying. So the first thing that I prayed was, you know, I lived my life the way I wanted to, Lord. Give me the ability to live my life the way that you want me to.
Wow.
And so by doing that, the pieces all started to come together. Then I started to analyze my life of where I came from and how God's grace and mercy allowed me to live that life the way that I wanted to, just to get to that point. And I always tell people that's how God works. He'll let you do things the way that you want, so that when he brings to you to him, you'll know that how you was living wasn't right.
Wow.
And that this is the right way. And he gives us that opportunity to learn that. So for me, I was at that point. And I remember the second thing that I prayed was, I was like, Lord, send me a woman who's going to want to put you first, so she can understand how I'm trying to live this life.
You was praying that day.
Listen, bro, my thing is it was terrible for me back when I was in the music industry. I had a habit of, I can't go to sleep at night unless I'm with a woman, and it can't be the same woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's bad, bro.
So it definitely caused some bad habits, is what you're
It
saying.
caused some bad habits. So for me, just sitting in that moment is what started the quest, you know? And then I started walking, and you got to remember that the Bible says that knock and the door is opened unto you. Ask and you'll receive. And I had already knocked. He opened the door, and I asked him to show me how I'm supposed to live my life. Now, have I perfected that? No. But have I gained the instructions and the guidance to do it? I absolutely have. Now I can go into the book. Now I can understand when I'm right, when I'm wrong. Now I could go home at the end of the day and analyze how I carried myself through that day. And now I can understand what repentance really is. It's for when we make mistakes and we go immediately to God in sincerity. Because you have some people that'll be like, I know I just smoked that crack, but God forgives me. There's no sincerity in that. You know what I'm saying? The crack, baby.
Not the
That
crack.
C-rack.
Oh, not that.
The C-rack. Because listen, I used to always say, how can someone do this? How can someone do that? If you have a habit, you have a habit, you know? And the thing is that you shouldn't be condemned for that habit. But what needs to happen is understanding. You know, man and woman, the Bible says, is going to suffer because of that lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And that lack of knowledge is in the book. So when I started studying the book, is how it made how I was able to turn that car in that sharp right and know that, you know what, I could still do the things that I enjoy, like sneakers and fashion and all that. But I got to make sure that at the pinnacle of everything I do is God.
Perfect segue. Hip hop to holiness to the sneaker dojo, where we're at now. You're covered in the drip. The drip's on the table. The drip clearly doesn't stop. Let's talk about the sneaker dojo. I mean, clearly you've always had a sense of style, but when did that turn into, I'm going to put on, obviously for myself, but I'm also going to start a YouTube channel and start a brand?
I started seeing and helping people, and I was giving ideas out and seeing these ideas turn and spiral into these great things, and I said, not no more. I'm not giving any more ideas out. I'm gonna do it for myself, because people will look at me, oh, that's so stylish, and then take the idea and run with it. But I kind of was giving them the idea, so I can't get mad at them for that. So that's what drove me to say, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel because I love sneakers. Been copping sneakers since the early 80s. You know, going out doing little odd, doing odd jobs to anything to try to get 40, 50 bucks and go to Marshall's and grab some court forces or something. Damn. And so that's how the Sneaker Dojo started. Now, the Sneaker Dojo, the store and the brand, started because it's the sense of style. I'm going out, I'm not seeing the things that I really want, but I'm knowing the color palettes and the things that I want to put together, which led me to even create the Sneaker Dojo.
That's dope. So the Sneaker Dojo is a brand. Obviously, you're wearing it. It's a YouTube channel where you are just talking about all things sneakers and everything you love of sneakers. Yeah. And that passion, you said, started in the 80s. Do you remember your first pair of sneakers you got that you was like, oh, I'm on?
My first pair of sneakers that I got when I was on was some Pro Keds that I cried for. My mother bought them for me. Actually, with some Converse.
Yeah.
I cried that my mother get me the Converse, Chuck Taylors, white on white, high top. She got them, but then my brother had Pro Keds, and then she looked at that and was like, that's not fair. He got Pro Keds, you got Chucks, took the Chucks back, got me Pro Keds. But I said, hey, this is what I got to figure this out. Yeah. So I laced them up a certain way and figured it out, and that was my real first pair of sneakers.
That's dope.
My first pair of sneakers that I was able to...
No, that's all right.
Did I just hit my own mic?
Yeah, you did.
My first pair of sneakers that I was able to buy.
Yeah, lower it a little bit.
That was probably my summer job I had. And they were Lottos. I remember I got some Lottos. And I got a pair of Nikes. And that was kind of my real first sneaker purchases.
Damn. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, again, the man is just not the average sneaker consumer. He is a sneakerhead at his truest core of who he is, and he graciously brought some of his favorite sneakers, not the rarest, but he brought his personal favorites to the studio real quick to just talk about it. So let's start right here real quick. Tell the people what these are. I mean, obviously they ones, but
come on, man, that's the legendary shoe that started it all. Like, got your boy got his shoes banned.
Damn.
And
the
that's the bread Jordan ones. That's the 2016 pair.
Okay. Dope. Now let's keep it in the Jordan fan. We got some Jordans right here. What are these? My size. Thank you.
Those are the Armand Manere 3s. The Armand Manere 3s. Armand Manere is just the colors that they use is just crazy. You know, the guy.
A lot of collabs coming out. How you feeling about collabs these days?
Some of them are dope. I think sometimes that they just have the tendency to just overdo things and take things in the wrong direction. Yeah. But for the most part,
when it's authentic,
it's dope.
It's dope.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Halloween's right around the corner.
I felt it was only right to bring that shoe because we're around the Halloween season.
These glow in the dark?
Those are the mummies. The bottoms glow in the dark.
Wow.
And of course, if you look at the shoe, it's supposed to look like a mummy wrap, you know, like how a mummy is
This
wrapped.
man clearly has hit on the app that I never hit on. How you feel about these apps, man? And you think it's fair?
It's not fair because there are a lot of people who are botting. No, a lot of people are botting.
You own the bots? You give me some bots?
I don't have no bots. I have relationships, long-standing relationships.
All right, Cliff,
I've been a sneakerhead since the 80s, so those relationships are in place.
We need a sponsor.
Yeah, we need a sponsor. I take some Ewings, or what was those, Ruse? With the pocket cliff? You still got a pair of those, right?
No, the kangaroos, yes. I still, listen, about the kangaroos. I had $5 that my parents gave me for lunch, and I thought I was fresh. I put the $5 in the kangaroos.
Oh, damn.
Oh, man.
It never came out.
Fell out.
No, they never came out. I couldn't unzip it.
Once again, we're dating ourselves. New Balance has always been fresh, but man, the resurgence of New Balance as of late.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that real quick and talk about what it is.
The resurgence is dope because they align themselves with the right people. Joe Freshgood, Teddy Santis, that one you're holding in your hand is Teddy Santis. He's actually the head of U.S. design for New Balance.
Wow.
And those are the 990 V3s, the V3 990s. I like those the most out of all New Balances.
Dope. Now, again, obviously, you have to be living under a rock to not know what these are, the Yeezys. And I mean, it's obviously funny we're holding this because as of today, there might not ever be a Yeezy collab with Adidas again.
Nope, and I got a stack of them at the house.
Damn, I'm gonna have to hit you, after the interview, hit you up.
Hey,
sponsorship.
Yeah, now, I mean, let's talk about that real quick. your thoughts on Yeezy, and I mean, do you think he's gone too far and lost everything he's created, or you think he'll be able to rebound? Tell us your thoughts.
I'll make it nice and simple. How can you tell someone they have freedom of speech, and when they start to use their speech, you shoot them down and condemn them? You can't. Everybody has freedom of speech, man. I mean, it's all about delivery. You know, no matter what you do, it's also the self-perception. I may feel he didn't do something right. You may feel he did do it right. I think that he was just getting off his chest something that's been there for a very long time.
Now, again, freedom of speech is real, but the consequences of freedom of speech are also real.
Yeah.
And as a businessman, I know you can have something on your heart and want to get it off, but as a businessman who I'm sure employs a lot of other people, himself and his team, do you think he could have maybe went about this a little differently and not risk losing so much of what he's built? I mean, it's a legendary brand. This shoe's iconic. Yeezy itself is iconic. Talk about that, and like, do you think the freedom of speech went too far in terms of him not thinking about his brand?
I think he went off the rails a little bit with the George Floyd comment. I think he should have left that alone. He never should have said anything about that.
Yeah,
come on. That wound is still
obvious.
fresh. You know what I'm saying? That wound's still fresh. As far as, you know, his views on Adidas and, you know, the comments that he made in reference to, you know, certain groups, I think he's just fed up, man. I think he was just fed up. And if you put a pot on the stove with water in it and you boil it and put a lid on top of it, eventually the water's going to get so hot and boil so much, it's going to push the lid right off. And I think that that's where he was at. And when you're at that point, you sometimes aren't thinking clearly because now you're acting off emotion. And I think he acted off emotion. I think he could have delivered everything he needed to say in another manner, but he also made it abundantly clear is that he's rich and he doesn't care what happens. He's not scared of anybody. You know,
I mean, having millions of dollars helps you get your point across. Lastly, the Jordan 4s. I mean, these are kind of
the Canyon Purples.
Ooh.
Canyon Purples.
I mean, bro,
that was a woman's shoe that came out in extended sizes. So it came out in all the way to, I think, a men's 14.
And as the shoe rule, how many pair of sneakers do you have?
Believe it or not, people think I just have a warehouse full of sneakers.
I think that.
And I don't. Because I give a lot of stuff away. There was a point.
Wait.
Oh, I heard that.
Give a lot of stuff away.
And it's recorded.
10.5. I'm a 10. When is this yard sale?
I'm sure I got something.
All right, Cliff, you too big over there. Don't worry about this.
I got some New Balance in a 10.
12? Perfect.
And I was almost about to bring them. But I didn't know what size either of you wore.
About to bring them. Now you know.
Why would I bring them and not know your shoe size?
That's true. You could have texted me.
That's a good point.
Anyway, again, how many sneakers total do you have in your collection?
I would say of my personal sneakers,
I
gotta have at least maybe 250 pairs.
What?
250 pair of sneakers. Where? I mean, are they like on the bed, under the bed?
They're in my bedroom. So the way that my bedroom is when you walk into the bedroom, it's a huge open space, and then there's stairs that lead up to a loft where the bed's at. So the bed is up there. So there's nothing that's really in the way down there.
Wait, hold on. Did he just say he got 2 floors in his bedroom?
Yeah, he did.
There's 2 floors in my bedroom.
Forget the car flex.
Not like 2 floors like me. I used to have just a bunk bed that used to elevate me. But you got 2 actual floors.
Yeah, you walk into
meaning you got space for 250 shoes.
I really don't, though, because if you put 250 shoes into a space like that, now it looks like you don't have no space.
Damn, yeah.
Because I also have like a suit rack and stuff in there. Man, I'm just doing karate with this mic.
It's all right. It's
because you got a dojo.
Yeah, the dojo, the shoe room. You're taking that a little too literal, brother. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry, we'll take payment in your most expensive sneakers.
We expect Klarna.
And speaking of that, real quick, before we get up out of here, what's your most prized sneaker in your collection? Maybe value. Let's go value in terms of what it's worth, but also what's your personal favorite shoe in your collection?
My personal favorite shoe is sitting right there. It's the Bread One.
Okay.
That's one of my personal favorites. My favorite Jordans are the 1s, the 3s, and the 4s, and then all the rest of them fall behind that. But if I had an opportunity to pick, if I was to go to the Nike employee store and they said, what 3 shoes do you want? I'm looking for a 1, I'm looking for a 3, and I'm looking for a 4, and it has to be something that's fire. I'll probably get all 3 of those as... I'll probably only be able to get 2 of them because Travis doesn't make a 3. So I would get the Travis 4 and get the Travis 1, and then
I'm sure you got a pair of those.
I've had all those shoes, but I will say that once I get tired of a shoe, I'll get rid of it.
You let it go.
Yeah,
so you're not just holding on to shoe. I mean, you already got 250. You don't need. No. You probably have 500 if you
There
do
was
it that
a time that I had about 500 pairs of shoes, and that's when I would keep them in my basement.
Wow.
But I was so scared of hearing all of these basement horror stories of flooding and all that. I got rid of half of them and moved the other half upstairs.
Wow. That's growth.
Yeah.
That's growth. Good for you. Now, what's your most valuable shoe in your collection?
I got like a lot of just regular stuff, but I would say that I have two shoes that are probably the most valuable. I have a pair of the Tim Duncan foam posits from way back in the day. They're wrapped in plastic. You can see them at the Sneaker Dojo. They're on display at the store. Those are there. And then I do have a pair of Travis Scott Mocha, reverse mochas. Those are 1,200.
Wow. Good for you, man.
But I had a bunch of SBs that I got rid of, wasn't thinking anything about, and then maybe 2 or 3 years after, they rose in price. Bruh. Those probably would have been the most expensive. I'm talking about $5 grand, 10 grand. Yeah.
Well, good for you, man.
What was the sneakers that you had, Dave? I remember when we did a shoot, it was like some Yeezys. They look like space boots.
What?
They look like space boots
just said
to me.
I had space boots on?
They look like space boots. They were Yeezys.
What?
Oh, the ones with the strap across?
$1,500.
Oh, wait, I never wore those.
I know you didn't, but you had them.
Yeah,
those were the first Yeezy when he went to Adidas.
Yeah, no. I had...
Oh, you had the Nike ones.
I had the
black
Nike.
ones.
I had the black ones with the...
It was like glow in the dark.
The glow in the dark bottom. The twos, the Yeezy twos at Nike. Entered the raffle at Concepts. I get called. They talk about I won the raffle. Bro, you know how much they told me they trying to sell these to me for? And I won them for retail? I mean, whatever. Bro, they told me they cost $600. They were like, oh, if you want them, you got to come pick $600. I was like, but they retailing for $200. Yeah, $250. And that's a stretch for me at that moment. Whatever.
You bought them.
I paid the price for them. And I had them for years. I sat on them for years because I was happy to have them, but I was like too scared to wear them.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I told Jomel from Laced about them because I knew him and I knew he had a store. And he was like, yo, I'll buy them from you. This was, I mean, I don't even know what year. Maybe like 2010-ish, around that time.
Yeah.
I sold them to him. At that time, I thought it was an amazing deal. He paid like $1,800 for them. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. I'm letting these go right now.
Know how much that shoe is worth right now?
Listen, I don't want to know how much it is worth right now.
Tell him. I need to see it. I got the camera on.
You know what's crazy? It doesn't matter how much that shoe is worth right now because with that $1,800,
I know the story. You bought
he helped me buy a camera, which was my 5D Mark II, which then set me on a trajectory to make triple that money back.
Listen, don't let this guy fool you. Listen, before we go, I just need to make sure I get this off.
Yeah, get this clear, especially if it's complimentary to me.
Listen, it's very complimentary to you. I can be one of the people that says I seen him start from the bottom, got a cheap little camcorder type camera, and start working his way. He actually put the battery back in my back to get interested in filming and doing video, and I'm seeing every time he's making a video and I'm really studying his videos. I'm like looking at his club videos like, how does he have the lighting like that? Like, how does he have the, because that's when I was still in that process of learning apertures and shutter and all of that, not knowing that all of this plays together along with the light. I just want to say that this brother has created a life for himself out of a passion that he sat down and focused on and stayed consistent with.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. And obviously we're brothers in filmmaking and video creation in that note. And I mean, I want to commend you and give you your flowers because one, you had an amazing career in which nobody could ever take. You've created so many memories in your life to allow you to grow and learn and see so many other things, and then be able to like give that game away to some up and coming people, whether in the music business or just business period. Your faith in the Lord and being able to stay true to that, and not just on a surface level, you got deep, changed your life around for the better, and now still going, still fresh to death with the Sneaker Dojo. And honestly, it was you starting you're one of the people when I used to watch your channel, still do. It's like, yo, this dude he just keeps going. He's not gonna stop until he gets to where he wants. And that was motivated for me to see like, yo, I can do that too. Like, why am I not facing the camera around on me and just telling my story. And I mean, honestly, that was all motivation for this and just starting YouTube in general. You were one of the integral parts in that, and I appreciate you, brother, for that. And I definitely appreciate you coming out to the Clearance Rack podcast, showing us love, showing us your personal collection that I'm leaving with today. Just Cliff, take him in the back to go show him something, and I'm gonna just run out of here.
We'll bring him to the speaker box.
All right. These are gonna be on Craigslist, eBay, wherever I can get some money for them. But no, honestly, thank you for pulling up. Thank you for coming us, blessing us with the drip. Again, you smell like money. You're not. Thank you for giving me a new scent other than Cliff's atrocious Tommy Hilfiger scent that he normally wears. I appreciate that.
It was on sale.
And real quick, just tell the people how they can connect with you and learn more about you. Get close to the mic and let them know.
All right, you can connect with me on Instagram, _sneaker_dojo. Also on Facebook, The Sneaker Dojo. The YouTube is the same, The Sneaker Dojo. Come along, follow us. We're about to start doing some real crazy videos, crazy. Like, I've started to sit back, and as a creator, you can understand this too. You do so many things when the camera's off. You say to yourself after, I should have filmed that.
Yep, exactly.
You know, I should have recorded that. And one thing that I love to do is walk into sneaker stores and see kids that want to get sneakers and can't afford them and buy them for them on the spot.
Philanthropist now?
So I walked into Expressions not too long ago, and the kid was in there with his grandfather, and they were going back and forth. Grandfather was not trying to buy those sneakers. And
I was that kid one time.
Yeah, I said, how much are they? And he goes, yeah, he wants this shoe, and it's $160 or $180. And I just asked him, I said, well, how's his grades? He's like, his grades are good. He does good in school. I said, all right. When the lady walked by that worked in the store, I tapped her. I said, get that shoe for that little kid. Here's $200. Keep the change. Make sure that he's all set. Make sure his grandfather doesn't pay for the shoe. Wow. And that was it. Because I used to be that kid too, man. And the one thing that I promised myself when I left the music industry is that when I came back to Boston, I was going to give back. Wow. So anybody who's in the Cambridge area or has grown up in Cambridge, FNH, Friday Night Hype. Go check it out, man.
Wow. Definitely will do that. And again, man, thank you for coming out, blessing us right here on the Clearance Rack podcast. It's been an amazing interview with Boston's own, Cambridge's own, the world's own KT, the MC. He still got it. He dropped a couple bars off camera. The Sneaker Dojo, the Christian, the man, the myth, the legend, and real estate. We didn't even talk about that. We'll talk about that part 2 of your career on another interview. But thank you so much for pulling up to the Clearance Rack. It's been our pleasure. And man, you can come anytime, especially when you bring in some sneakers for me, man.
I'll be sending you guys some merch.
Once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in right here on the Clearance Rack podcast with my man, Cliff Nose P behind the board. My name is David H. And listen, it's a simple task. A simple ask is all we need from you. Just like this video, comment on this video, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and continue making podcasts just like this one and many more to come. And we'll see you right here next week on the Clearance Rack.